All right, so today I'm gonna make my own shiny metallic font. But first, let's check this out. This is an example of what we're about to make. I'm gonna use a couple of different techniques, and hopefully you can follow along. I will try to explain exactly what I'm doing, and I'll try to do this in a simple way. I actually found a different technique that might work for us. Let's hop into it. All right, first things first, we're gonna head over to Google, and I'm gonna look for TinkerCAD. Actually, CAD. The reason why is, oh, here it is. The reason why I want to use TinkerCAD for this project is that it's relatively easy to pull this project off without having to make an SVG or do anything creative, anything too hard, because that takes a lot of graphic design skill and that sort of thing. All right, so I'm jumping into TinkerCAD yet again. We're using this website. We not too hard to use. Okay, so I'm going to click on my scribble tool. Of course, there's other tools. You can bring out whatever you want, but I'm going to use a scribble tool because this one's the easiest to make organic shapes with. And if we looked at our font before, it was bubbly, and I want something that looks bubbly. So how am I going to do this? So I'm actually going to draw out the shape that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my last name probably, and we'll see what happens. So the way I use the scribble tool is you can draw, like anything you draw turns into a 3D shape. If you navigate to the preview up here, you can see actually a preview of what you're about to see. So yeah, so the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to put Penado, something like that. But of course, the shape was a little more bubbly, so I tend to just add on like that. So I add on like a couple more bubbles, that sort of thing. I add on a metallic. I'm gonna add the metallic shape, but it looks better if it's sort of bubbly and kind of droopy looking. Like if I put a little drip down here, it might look a little cooler. So I'm gonna do that to every letter. I'm just gonna go ahead and just add on a little bit extra on the exterior, like so, and I'll begin to create a font out of this. Nothing fancy. All right, I'm going ahead and I'm finishing just like the last sort of letters. Just adding on to the end there. If you ever want to take away, there's actually an eraser here, and you can go ahead and just draw, and it'll show you a little preview of what's going to be erased when I let go. Of course, it's erased. It's gone. There we go. And I'll just erase away at that. All right, looks good. Or good enough at least for this example. All right, so if I go down here to done, I'll click done, and it creates the shape for me, right? So I'm going to reduce how thick it is. I'm going to click this box at the top, and you can see the measurement right here. It says there's the number 10 here, but there's a measurement. There's a line that's going to dictate what it's going to do. So if I click on this side, that line does not develop. If I click over here, it develops, but over just from top to bottom. I can look down, but I'm looking at this from the side, okay? And the reason I'm doing that is so I can choose how thick I want it. So this is pretty good thickness. This is good. This looks good to me. All right, so where do we go? We're going to export this because we are modeling on TinkerCAD, and then we're going to take this into Blender, and we're going to make it into something a little bit better. But I like this method a little more than just making an SVG. All right, so I'm going to click on Export, and I'm going to actually, it says for 3D print, OBJ. I'm going to choose OBJ, so I'm going to click that button, and it exports onto my desktop like that. I'm going to remove that, and I will minimize these screens. All right, so I have a zip file. OBJs show up on a zip file, so you have to, on a Mac, you would double click it and it would unzip. On a PC, you have to open it, and by PC, I mean a Windows computer. Sometimes people don't know the difference, because a PC could be a Mac, but this time it's a Windows computer. You actually have to open up the zipped file. This means that this won't work, that they're compressed. So if you extract all, it's like taking the files out of a basket and you get a new file. So you can go ahead and take this zipped file and throw it in your recycling bin, and it produced this one. This is the actual file. So I'm going to double click on that. I'm looking for the OBJ file. It gives me an MTL material. I'm going to take the OBJ and I'm just going to put it over here. There we go. And I'll close that. I can go ahead and delete this file too. Why not? It might look different on your computer. For me, it does the Blender symbol because I use Blender for 3D stuff. Okay, so I'm going to name this Penado. There we go. All right, and now we're going to actually go into Blender. Now there's an older version of Blender. I've used I use an older version, but I also have the brand new version. I have a couple different versions on my computer. Blender, something yet again you can use for free and get online. All right, so I'm going to click General, and I'm going to go in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this box. This box. The way I do that is I press the X button. If it's not selected, this won't work. So by selecting something, you click on it, and it develops this orange outline on the outside. Press the X button. X is delete. So Blender has a lot of what's the word? Blender has a lot of hotkeys. So there's a bit of memorization. I highly recommend that you download a cheat sheet. There's a lot of cheat sheets for Blender and how to do hotkeys, and there's absolutely no way to operate without that. So it's kind of weird, but I'll tell you the buttons you need. X is to delete. And now we're going to import something. So we're going to go to import. Import means you're taking something from outside of Blender and you're putting it into Blender. That's different than export. Export is you're taking something from Blender and you're taking it outside of Blender. Different than saving. Import is not saving. Export is not saving. You're taking one thing from one place to another, as if I don't know. It's like I'm taking the pizza from the box and I'm eating it. It's going to my stomach. That's an export. All right, let's get this. It's a wavefront .obj. We're trying to get an OBJ into Blender. So it's going to show me this screen. There's a dialog box. I'm going to go to desktop because that's where I left my file. I'm going to go down, and here it is. Penado.obj. Import. Ah, there it is. It was almost instant, right? Wow. All right, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm using my mouse wheel to zoom out. Alternatively, you can use this magnifying glass, and if you click down and move up, so if you're using a laptop, this is probably the best way to move around. The hand is to move around. Oops. The hand is to move around. The camera just goes straight to where the camera is pointing. I'll show you how to use that in a sec. But right. All right, looks good. So I'm going to take this shape, and on the left there's these navigation tools. So one is, and if you run your mouse over them, they tell you what they do. I don't have to explain this. The arrow is to move, so I'm going to move this upwards. The rotate tool, I'm not going to be rotating this, but I will use the scale. I'm actually going to make this smaller because it doesn't seem like it, but this is a gigantic word. So I'm going to make it smaller. And you just want to make sure that when you make something smaller, that you also make it thinner, so it gets proportional. So this looks pretty, it's getting perfect, almost. I'm going to drop it down over here, though. There we go. This is good enough. All right, so I'm going to move this up. So this is where it could potentially get a little tricky, but not really. We're going to do it this way. We're going to go head over to our shading section at the top. So there's a few tabs up here. There's one called Modeling, Sculpting, UV Editing, Texture Paint, Shading. Boom, let's go to shading. There we go. You won't be able to see your item, like your 3D model. You don't have to see it in the screen, but sometimes it just points towards this center thing there. Whatever. All right, so the important thing is down here. So this is like node-based editing. I forget what it's called. I forget the technical term, but you use nodes. So that's basically, if you can see a little sample here, there's these two lines, or there's these two dots with a line joining them together. This is the properties of this 3D model up here. So when I click on this 3D model, it says, what's the base color? White. So if I were to move that to red, it would turn red. If I were to move it to blue, it would turn blue. Green, perfect. I'm going to keep it on white for a sec. That's okay. But down in here, it says metallic. Should it look metal? Yeah. So I turn that up, and it's metallic, but it's metallic looking. So you want to do something, turn down the roughness. You want to make it shiny. There we go. So now we have a droopy metallic lettering that's starting to look pretty cool. Let's like put that in frame. Looks pretty cool. All right, so that's about it. I'm gonna turn down the clear coat. That's about it. Last thing, transmission. If you want it to be see-through, you can turn transmission up, but we won't do that this time. Okay, so we're almost done. It's actually, this is pretty much it. You could screenshot and this would be a really cool thing. But I want you to be able to have the full skill of how to do this. So In this section, it says object over here. Right here, it says object. So if I click on object and I click on world, this is where I can change the background. Because the background is going to be shining on the metallic surface. So let's find a background really fast. All right, I'm on Google and I'm going to look up desert. Desert is a pretty good option to choose. I'm going to go to Google Images. I'm going to navigate to, I think, Tools. There we go. And I'm going to go to Size and I'm going to choose Large. I'm going to make sure the pictures I'm using are big. There we go. All right. So I want to be able to see a horizon in my picture. I want a sky and land. So this is almost the perfect picture right here. So I'm going to take this, save the image as. It says JPEG image, and it's called unnamed. I'm actually going to call it desert. I'm going to click save. Oops. Whoa, before I save, make sure it goes to the desktop because I want to be able to find this. There we go. Desktop, save. Excellent. All right, we're going to navigate back to Blender. All right, now that we're in Blender again, we change it to world. We're going to click add, and we're going to go to texture, and it says environment texture. Perfect. That's what we need. So I'm going to put environment texture right here. And it shows a picture of a file and it says open. When I click on that, I'll just go to desktop, desert, open. All right. Now we can take this off, throw that away, and just connect this to this. There we go. What's happening there? So desert is its own sort of like block or sort of node, that sort of thing. It's its own blueprint. And then world output, and they're connected now. So it's like basically this picture of the desert is connected to what the world is going to look like. Um, and we don't get a preview of this, so it could be a little confusing at first, but we'll see in a few seconds. All right, let's head over to the top and we'll go back to layout because we're pretty much done. All right, here we are. Clicked on layout. Um, Now we're going to set up our picture. So up on the top corner, there's four circles, top right corner. Above your gizmo, this is the thing that you kind of navigate to move around if you're using a laptop. Right above that is a shiny one. There's one with a little shine on it. When you click on that, it shows your background. So that's pretty cool. So you get a pretty good idea. Now you can start to arrange. You can see the background looks a bit blurry. If you want, you can start to move that upwards a little bit, like that. But if you want to render a picture, that's going to be the most important thing because that's going to be what you want for this project to render this picture. Looks pretty cool. Click on the camera icon on the right here, and it goes to your camera. Now, at the top, there's a tiny little tab next to the gizmo. This red, green, blue navigation thing is the gizmo. There's a tiny tab here, so when you click on that button, it opens up. Right under that, you're going to want to click View. And then it says Lock Camera to View. So when I click that button, now the camera follows wherever I go. So now I can do something like this and set up a picture. So if we want to take the picture, all you have to do is you go to rendering. So at the top, there's, of course, modeling, sculpting, UV editing, texture paint, shading, animation, rendering. Go to rendering. We see nothing because we haven't rendered anything yet. But we're actually going to go and head over to this sort of the properties tab right here on the right hand side. There's a picture of a printer. There's a picture being printed out. This will tell you what type of file you're going to use. So it says file format. You just want to make sure that it's a JPEG or a PNG. PNG is pretty nice too. Right above that is a picture of a camera. And this is where you choose what rendering engine you're going to use. Eevee is the most popular rendering engine. It's not too hard on a computer, and I'll show you what it looks like. At the top, if I click the render button, it says render image. When I click that button, it renders the picture. So this is a picture that you can save now. If you click image, save as, desktop, um, let's see, shine, shiny metal font and click save. Cool. That's saved on your computer. That's one way to render. Another way to render is if you click render engine, and this only works if you have a graphics card. Render engine, go to cycles. And of course, might crash my computer. Nope. Right now it says GPU. You want this to say, or CPU. You want this to say GPU. You want your graphics card to do the work, not your CPU. This could freeze your computer if you do it the wrong way. That's why I say this. Um, all right. So let's take a look. If we click image and or if we click render, I'm sorry, and then we click render image, we'll see. So right now, we're getting a far, far higher developed image. And what we're seeing actually, as this is going, is we're seeing the computer develop the image. So what's happening here is these little squares are being rendered in chunks. So if you've ever played Minecraft and it says, how many chunks do you want to render? This is what that means. So you're rendering little chunks of this image. And you can see that the quality is far better when you use cycles. The only thing is that you should have a graphics card. I don't recommend this if you have a computer that just doesn't have a graphics card. It might crash. As we saw while I was recording this video, it froze up a little bit, so that's something that could happen as well. So rendering is a really cool process. Rendering means that you're getting a picture that's super high quality, and it's almost done. You can render an animation. You can render just about anything on this on this blender as we're using. There we go. All right. So click on image, save as shiny metal font.png, but we're going to put an underscore and call this cycles because we rendered it in cycles. And I'll just click save. Cool. All right. I'll close this. Don't save. Whatever. I can close that. And now I've got a JPEG of my name and it's shiny, and you can even see that little picture that I added in the background. All in less than 20 minutes. Wow. Cool. Thanks for watching.